Okay, so we are live. I'm here with Didier Amyot. Did I pronounce that properly?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
You should
I'm
add you should add a T and an E on the end so I can say Amyot.
yes, actually my father pronounces like that. So
Does he really?
yeah. So there's a
Which part of Quebec do you hail from?
Montreal. Like I grew up in Montreal, so
Oh, okay.
or in the suburb of Montreal, actually, West Island, El Perro, and and I
Oh,
moved
it's
to
nice
Montreal.
there. It's nice. Very beautiful there.
Wow. Actually, I'm supposed. I have a friend. I'm supposed to go to. He's Russian and just like he moved a couple of 2 years ago, and he wants to go visit El Perro tomorrow. So we're going to take the train and we're going
Ah,
to walk what is walkable in Peru,
oh,
which is I have no idea what to do. So I haven't been there like perhaps 15 years. So
wow. You're from there, so you probably hate it.
correct, but I'm not a suburb guy, so I don't like
Okay.
suburbs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like cities.
Yeah. So who are you, and what brings you onto my podcast? I know I just discovered you on Telegram and invited you sort of randomly because we only met 9 years ago.
Correct.
Let's get to know each other. Who are you? What do you believe, and how did you come to believe what you believe? Just go back to like your childhood and how were you raised, if there was any religion or
Yes.
anything like that.
So yeah. So I come from a I would say like very secular family. Both my parents as separated when I was very young. I don't have any
Oh,
memories from them being together, and yeah. So I've never. So when I'm 36 now. So when I went to school, there were still classes of. I want to say religion, but it was not religion, right? It was really Catholic.
okay.
And because like there's a big difference between religious classes and so at primary school. So I was actually doing moral, and my parents has been educated, especially my mom, on a very Catholic side, and she actually dropped all that in I suppose the 70s, like many people, and she turned a person I call that extremist atheist. So I call that because at one point it becomes a religion, right? So she became like a extremist atheist. My father, like, I have no idea, literally I have no idea. And Yeah, so I've been actually very educated in this, I would argue, in this total absence of religious side. I never, like, I've never been to, like, I could count the number of my hand number of time I've been, like, on one hand, number of time I've been to a church, and when I was young, probably zero. Like, when I mean, not even during a mass, that never happened. But just generally speaking, so totally abstract from everything which was spiritual and so on. Yeah, so I would argue that I'm someone who's perhaps as many people that has absolutely no notion of, like, it's not no notion of spirituality, because I don't think it is. But for me, spirituality is really something far. Um, when I talk to my friend, so actually, and I'm very actually interested by that. I'm very interested by religions as for multiple reasons, but yeah. And it's something which is, I think, perhaps very special of our time, that people like me, if I would have a time machine and go talk to any of my ancestor, a thing that would, like, we probably can believe that thing that would, like, be the biggest differentiator would be like my laptop, my headset, like listening to my music and so on. But actually for them probably would be like, what? You don't go to church? You don't, like, like, and probably we could go so back then. And before it was a part of, and I don't think it's particular for any place, but like currently there's really and it's not everywhere, right? You go to some, you go to multiple countries, it's not like that at all. But the lack of spirituality is something which is defining, and which is, I think, totally antagonistic to the yeah, basically to our history. So it's actually quite fascinating for me to be in this situation of, I'm actually fascinated by it, but I'm not. I'm fascinated by religions, but I'm absolutely not religious. I
Interesting.
consider myself agnostic, and I do not feel out any need of spirituality. Like some,
On those books behind your on your bookshelf there, any religious or spiritual or philosophical books in there?
wow, probably. This is more okay. So I have a comic book about Nietzsche. Actually, recently,
That's pretty cool.
recently, actually, I started to read a book about the history of the popes. Uh,
Nice.
uh, Very interesting. I learned that I
Any
don't like all the
favorites?
but there's no but I just like for last 2 years last 3 years I've been like at my work like 80 hours a week, so I could not read anything.
Oh,
I'm totally burned out. So I this is why actually I left. So before the podcast I said that I quit my basically last yesterday was my last day
good
at
for
work.
you.
And
What'd you
so
tell
yeah.
the boss? You to give him an earful. Let him have it. Let him have it. This is
So
what I think of you all these years.
I no, the only way that you can do that is if you love your job. So for me, it was actually quite hard. I loved my job. I love
Uh,
many things, but it
80 hours
turned
a
out,
week, that's a lot. That's
yeah. So yeah, yeah.
too much.
But
So you
yeah,
didn't have time to read. You haven't had time to read for the past couple of years.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, so I have multiple books. But you really like the story of Pope. Is something which is so I started to read it, and it's there's nothing which is as old as religion. Like there's some again nothing about Christianity, yeah, or Islam or Judaism or Hinduism actually, but it's old. Like ritual are way older than anything. It's not something about a country. It's not something about
Mm.
It's way 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 above that. It's not the same order of magnitude at all. So it's
Yeah.
fascinating. Actually, it is fascinating.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, have you ever been in a life or death situation where you reached out to God, any God? Is there anyone out there? Help!
No,
No.
no, it never happened to me.
No, huh?
No,
You had
it's
a comfortable, cozy life.
yes, I would argue absolutely, absolutely. I'm the typical white guy in his like N30s, without any problems.
White
With
privilege.
privileges.
Your one
Yeah,
problem
exactly,
is your white privilege
exactly.
and your male privilege
Yeah, yeah. I am. I
and
am.
your francophone Quebecois privilege. Don't forget that one.
I do not forget about it. I
I'm
do not
kidding.
forget about it. So,
So let's dive a little bit. I mean, I would love to talk about philosophy with you, but Nietzsche is one of my favorites. But I have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is COVID, the vax, everything like that. Can you give me your perspective as an agnostic, as a man who's lived a life of relative ease and comfort? What has this done to your worldview? It must have given you some food for thought.
um, I would argue that the entire um okay, so it's because COVID, it doesn't look like it start to be like a full history, like the first part where everyone panicked, then the part where it became a little better, then like return, and in Quebec it actually like it never kind of stopped, or like now it starts to stop a little bit.
Sixth wave coming.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard about it. I was like, okay, at one point, stop calling it a wave, just call it permanent. But yeah, no, me, it's really my relationship with the government that really changed. So it actually changed me. So it made me realize that when government says we cannot do something, it is per BS. When
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So for instance, I don't know, like let's say that I am I think everyone should pay their taxes. I think like Bill Gates should pay his fair tax, or actually let's put it in Quebec, Canada. Let's say the Desmarais family, or let's say the Pilado family, like all
Mom
the tax.
Boucher.
Yeah, exactly. All the tax havens and so on, and like there's massive fiscal evasion, and the government says, look, we cannot do anything because we've signed these deals with these countries. It would be impossible to do that. Like we are in a rule of law, and like these
Mm,
people are using
the system.
the law as they like the system, and okay, but the system is the system. The reason why you have this life is because the system exists, and the reason why everything here is nice is because the system works. And okay, there's some people that bypass the system has their flaw, but the system needs to be the system, because and then you have this COVID thing that hits, and basically the system, you just realize that okay, so that was all falsy, like you can decide to stop shops, to close shops on Sundays without any law, without any discussion, without anything, for but actually, like um, absolutely no reason, like no medical reason, no nothing, just because like it feels that politically it makes sense, like like I mean politically it makes sense, right? People like in time of crisis makes sense, like will rally when and it's a way, but it's 100% political, um and this situation continued and continued and continued. So it actually revealed a lot of things, I think, how powerful the states are really, and how the system that we live in is actually a real choice. It's not or it would be actually easier to break, like I don't know, like I personally, I live in the east side of Montreal, and it's been like I don't know, like 25 years I want to do metro line between Anjou and the blue line. I don't know, like Saint Michel, I suppose. 25 years to do that, and they always say, yeah, but we cannot. Like we would need to expropriate that person, but this we cannot. Like that person is like, and but then you realize, like, yeah, that's 100% BS. Like they could just tow all that away, and in a matter, like no law change, no nothing. Yeah, we call
Yeah.
that an emergency, something else. Yeah, it's very strange. Like for me, curfew, I never believed that we would live that. Curfews is something that I'm not, and it's really like the only argument that I've heard of why it's okay, like I've never heard why it's good, a curfew. I've heard why it's okay, why it's acceptable, and the reason has always been because that I've heard of. Anyway, don't go out after 9. No, and this for me, it's the same reason as like the argument is exactly the same as in like the I don't know, like in like the very, like it's very easy to make the very analog argument with like ultimate racism. Like I don't want black people in buses. Anyway, I will not turn black tomorrow. I don't care about it, right? So I don't go out after 9. I don't care
Mm.
about it. Which is, you're like, yeah, but I think that peoples are allowed to go to the street after 9. um so yeah, so it changed a lot about that. It made me really realize. So I used to vote. I voted a couple of times for what's the Quebec Solidaire, which are really, and the and it really made me turn me way more right wings that I thought I would. I never consider myself right wings. I don't consider myself right wing at all, neither now, but made me realize that this um like leftist branch of political parties are way more rooted into unionizations, and the bad unions, like not the unions that we want to improve, more unions that we want your paycheck, and we believe everyone should have more money, and who will give the money, I don't care, like it's someone else. And yeah, so so it's not, I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it at all, the COVID. I didn't like the how the government has acted. um
Did you get the jab or no?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah,
You got it?
yeah.
Did you have to get it?
Uh,
Did you want to get it?
I need to go to bars. Did I want, absolutely, like I'm not scared. Like for me, there's two. Like there's a couple of things. Like first, there's I do not believe that it's on a health, like that is an health issue to get the jab. I don't think that it's
Risk.
dangerous whatsoever. Like I don't think, I don't see the risk. I think I'm not.
You,
I
you think
actually
it's
I'm not.
safe? You think it's safe, but do you think it's effective? That's the question.
This is the second one. Like I am very, like I criticize a lot research universities, and the top of the bad things of that is always health. Reason is there's so much money. Like there's something called ghost writers, which is people that for scientific articles that these are the large corporations actually goes to researcher, and they say, look, we give you $10,000 if you sign this research, and that happens all the time. Yeah, this is known, right? This is known. Ghost writers, and that happens all the time. So all these all the research that you read about, about medicines and health in general, is actually highly like when you say it's literally marketing for them, it's literally marketing. If you like, and again, it's totally normal if you look at the large conglomerates that makes medicines. Like the largest department is actually marketing, and they do not market to customer; they market to doctors. And part of marketing to doctor, you absolutely need to have these research. This is how you do it. So they do it. There's no problem. So these are not so. All these research, I'm very skeptic at first. Again, I'm not. I don't think they would ever allow something to go and to damage people's health. But does it work? Like we've seen that it worked, but as a regular like flu vaccine, I mean, it's like it
Mm.
by time it decreases. I don't think getting like new jabs will help because like the various mutates. Is there perhaps there's something I'm too dumb? Like it's every time that you hear people like professional, they always take people like they try to explain with small words, and then they try after that when you say these small words, they say like, yeah, but you don't understand everything. Okay, so but I just use the exact same word that you're using. So it's very, you're just like, look, okay. Otherwise, and but yeah, like I'm not a fan of jab infinity. I'm really, really not. It's just
How
I
many
feel
will you get? How many are you willing to get?
uh, uh,
Have you had your
I'm
third
not.
yet?
No,
Are you gonna?
no.
Are you willing to get a third and a fourth and a fifth at least?
Here, there's really. Am I willing? So look, it's known that these jabs should these vaccines should go into um, like to people that did not receive any. Like in the world, this is how virology works, right? Canada is one of the worst country in sense that it grabbed a lot of vaccine, like I think 10 times the
Mm,
population just at the
mm,
very beginning. Even if
yeah.
the vaccination started later in Canada than elsewhere, actually we have way more reserve shots than United States or
And they have a
Israel.
shelf life too. That's the scary part.
What?
They have a shelf life
Yeah, yeah. So
and temperature sensitivity also. That's another thing that gets overlooked a lot. Do you
really,
remember? Yeah. Do you remember in the early days they were talking about minus 70 degrees Celsius for Pfizer? Do you remember that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they said, "Oh no, no, don't worry about the temperature control. It's not an issue." I think that they're not viable. I think most people don't get a viable shot. That's what I think. And only 14% of low income countries. I'm just reading off my screen here. 14% of low income countries have received at least one dose. They're saying 65% of the world population has received at least one dose. I don't believe it. I don't think it's 65%. I think that they like how big numbers work when you have a lot of data. First of all, it's hard to have reliable data, and also there's a human bias where we see what we want to see in the numbers, and we're able to see our bias manifest itself just because that's the natural human inclination to see what you want to see. It's like you see the pretty girl when you're a young single guy, and you're like, "Oh, does she like me? Yeah, I think she likes me." It's just wish fulfillment. Same thing with graphs and charts and statistics and these big numbers. They're hard to manage. They're hard to gather. They're hard to have accuracy. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe any of the numbers. But even if we believe the number, 65% have received one dose, and only 15% in the third world. So, like you're saying, and like Pope Francis says, let's take care of the second and third class citizens. Why don't we?
But yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then after that, and really, so for third shot, the thing too is that um, personally, I do not feel at all like I would argue concerned by that. Like I'm not scared of having COVID.
Did you
I've
get
never
it?
been scared. I don't know. Like
You never been?
like
Have you been tested?
no, but wow. So I don't understand why I would get tested. Like I don't understand. Like look, okay. So the only reason why the only moment I was so I was really sick in November, and I went to Colombia 2 weeks ago. And when it was the first time I went out of the country in like 2 years.
Latin America, Colombia.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so when I came back at this time, like I think today you're not like you don't need a COVID test, but I need a COVID test, and you had two choices: the antigen and the PCR.
Right.
Okay, and the thing is, apparently these tests, if you had COVID recently, they will actually test positive.
Mm.
So, but if you have a paper that you had COVID, that's fine. It's the only moment I went, oh damn, I did not know that. Perhaps I should have like getting tested because does it mean? And like I didn't want to stay there for another week, so So yeah, so that's it. And so this is the only moment I was like, oh, perhaps I should have tested. But no, I don't understand why I would get tested, in the sense that um like I don't know, like it's like if you get tested and is like ever, I don't know, like I don't. I'm perhaps I'm a very bad person, but I never felt that I endangered other people. Perhaps I'm a very bad person. I never felt that. Actually, I continue to work from office the majority of the time, and in the metro, I never felt that I endangered people. I never felt that. Um,
Did you sneeze in anyone's mouth?
uh, I like never on purpose. So never on purpose.
No, this is
Like
embarrassing. It's embarrassing that adults need to be told to wash their hands and not to sneeze into granny's face, right? It's embarrassing. Like, we're adults. We're not mentally retarded. Most of us are not mentally retarded, okay? When you're sick, when my wife is sick, I naturally just like, hey, don't snot on me and don't sneeze on me. I love you. And if you do, I'll forgive you. I mean, we always get sick. We always get each other's cold and flus. It's just
yeah,
inevitable. And it's just like, oh God, I don't want to catch what you have. It's just annoying, but probably going to get it. And yep, I got it. So she's always very angry when when I'm sick first. She's very angry. It's like blaming me and all this. Well, I also get sick from her. It just doesn't happen as often. Just so happens like
yeah.
I'm out there mixing and mingling more. But
Actually,
no,
my
we have common sense, right?
and two, it's I personally, it's really like it's very not correct what I'll say, but for me, it's very private, and it's very similar to like asking someone if they had COVID, if they had the shot, and what they're like. I feel it very disturbing in the sense that I never ask someone when you sleep with someone like that, do you wear a condom? Do you use a condom? And it's for me, it's like, and really the sex spark, like I'm kind of okay, right? Hey, like like I mean, with friends, like yeah, what happened with that girl? What
You're
happened with
open.
that guy? But like this thing is just kind of it's private, like it's way more private, and I genuinely like if uh, uh like I will not do I know I'm the kind of person that will say to my like if you sleep with someone put a condom on, but I don't want to know the answer, like I don't, it's private. So but now like health issue has become like up to the extreme case of showing uh these um these COVID
Oh
passports
yeah,
on
what do
the
you think of the passports?
one of the most disgusting thing I've seen.
Yeah.
Like and again, I'm white, man, heterosexual, like I'm a privileged person, so literally 100% of people around me are vaccinated, okay, or like the vast majority, like vast
Yeah.
majority. And but if you walk in the street, like I do not talk to the majority of the people. There's in society, there's kind of group of people, and there's the people that are the forgotten ones. The
Mm, mm,
immigrants, the poor people, the people that are. Just take a walk in Hochelaga, and you'll see them, but there's the same everywhere, right?
mm,
Um, and it's just another way to outcast them. And it's just another way to outcast the same population that has been outcasted. Like the biggest, I know at one point, I don't know if this is still true. I know the biggest the population that was not vaccinated in Canada was the autochtones, so the natives, which makes sense, right? They have no reason why to trust health system. They got like I mean, not the majority, but many of them has actually been kidnapped where they were young. So they have been kidnapped at birth. Like, yeah, your mother, like, nah, she's not really your mother. You deserve more than this Indian person. So they have no reason why to trust the health system.
mm.
So it makes sense. But again, is it like in a sense, there's two questions. First is like, can you force people? And if you can, which every time that you enforce thing, you cannot enforce forever. And the other question is this the time that you really want to force people? Like, because you won't be able to do it the second time, the third time, the fourth time. Like if there's a COVID-22 that is way worse, will people be more reticent or less reticent? And personally, I think it's going to create like if there's COVID-22 is going to create an even more fracture. More people will be like me and not caring at all. Like, and I would like if there's COVID-22, I would be even more reckless. You know, I would actually try to get out of Canada as soon as possible, and not you know, and again because I'm just like okay, this is your stuff. Like you're too crazy for me, and perhaps that's bad. I don't know, but and I think I'm not the only one in this situation.
Amazing. Yeah, I don't know if you could see what I put up on my screen there, but I just put up while you were talking about yeah,
No, no.
okay, you'll see if you watch it back, you'll see I put up an image of an Amerindian or what we call Aboriginal person, whatever the politically correct term is. His head with underneath his head is written "Trust the government." It's like the irony, because the white man here, we're so naive, most of us, about the intentions of our leaders, Trudeau, Legault, and the rest of them. We have a certain we've been trained to think that they have our uh, our health in mind and what's best for us in mind, and they're never going to have ill will towards us, or they're never going to be corrupt. They're never going to do anything that would harm us, put us in harm's way, and all these sorts of things. It's
Ah,
so naive.
but personally, I'm not. Uh, okay, so I'm am I an absolute separatist? That's a good question. No, not at all. Not at all. No, no, no. But you know, so Canada as a state is actually quite. It's almost hilarious how the COVID situation has been managed by provinces and Trudeau. Like we cannot really complain at him. Like health
Uh,
is not his thing. So I cannot blame Trudeau for anything. At the same time, um, like I'm from Quebec, and I'm let's pretend that I'm very separatist, and I know how corrupted the politicians are. Like I know how and it's nothing like special. Like Legault, he's open, like he's a real like I mean, the only thing that he wants to do and the only thing that he's capable of doing is getting elected. So there's no reason why when he's on power, he doesn't continue what he's been doing forever and which is getting elected. So we give him power and there's no reason why this power would not be served as he did before, which is make people like me. And actually on this side, like he deserve an A plus. Like on the side of getting all the power that the state could give and giving them some electorate power, like amazing, like he did very well. The thing which I found really disturbing is how the legislation, how the legislative, so no, not legislative, the judges. So this is
judicial.
judicial as work with that. So in the United States, the majority of the cases where COVID, like weird stuff has been put to court. People said, look, like the judges said, look, like there's no place in the law for that. You're not allowed to do that. There's constitutions. There's many things. Best example is curfew. Like you could not. Like I did not believe that it was legal to put a curfew, and actually judges basically. I didn't like. I'm as many people. I read less and less and less the paper, and I get less and less informed during all this pandemic. But my understanding is what judges said is like, yeah, like we think like it's good. We think we would basically do the same. And again, like these judges are people like me, or actually they're more like me. They have a chalet, they go there, they like, they don't work a lot and so on. So, they say like, yeah, this is the good part to do. But actually, if you look at the law, I can't believe that it's doable because after that, like, I'm still confused. Like, for instance, now, if we continue with this legal system, all the judges, all the court cases are just piling up, right? Because there's no like the court throughput that's perhaps a bad name, but as drastically decreased, there's less cases. So now my question is, there's fewer crimes when there's a curfew. So will we actually put a curfew to reduce the number of crime to allow more cases to be processed by the law? Because actually, like now there's a pressure on that. So like before the pressure was on health system, now it's on the judiciary system. So are we allowed to do that? and my question is actually, if the answer is no, I would like to know why. Like, if we were able to do it to
Mm,
save a health system,
mm.
that actually the only thing that has been asked to do with the health system, like no one said perhaps you should actually, I have like, let's try to get immigrants inside the system. Like,
Yeah.
that would have been totally out of proportion. What, immigrants? Like, these people, like the doctor from France, out of question, out of question. So
Wow.
it's, it's
What did you think of the? You see my shirt here. I support the truckers.
yeah.
Freedom Convoy 2022. What did you think of all that? Were you consuming mainstream media, or did you get some alternative media on the truckers convoy? And what did you think of it?
Um, for me, it's a protest as any other.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's a protest as any other. Uh, I like, really, and I didn't. So I didn't go to Ottawa
No.
to view. I didn't. I know they were passing on highways and people were. Um, Personally, I don't care. And it's not. Yeah, basically, I think it's just at the end. If it was not like, no, is it? So yeah, I really don't have an opinion, like,
Yeah.
because it was clearly not just because, like, you needed like to get vaccinated to cross the border, even if you're a trucker or not. It was way more than that. I think a lot of people has been felt are feeling totally outcasted by the like by everything that happens. Obviously, you saw a fracture between like Quebec and Ottawa. Like, the Canadian went to like the Canadian outside of Quebec went to Ottawa, where, like, even if it, I think, was a little bit, like, I think it was misplaced in the sense that Trudeau could not, like, did nothing, and the like, he could not, like, the thing that Canadian government did is, like, putting insane requirements after everyone, even if it was at the beginning that was required. But actually, like, doesn't matter. Let's put insane amount of requirement to enter Canada just to pretend that we're doing something. And actually, it was about the only regulation that they could do. So. But yeah, so for me, and it was actually a peaceful protest, right? It was not, me. I found it very funny that Ottawa resident says, yeah, they disturbed the city and so on. You're like, yeah, but you live in a capital. You live, like,
Yeah.
that you work. I don't like these people. Like, you work you're a civil servant for some minister, or I don't know what. You work at Parliament. Like, you have some benefits. Like, Ottawa is the richest city in Canada. But at the same time, like, and actually, we put the capital, like, the capital of Canada is actually put in a weird place, basically to avoid, like, these protests. But when it happens, like, you need to live with it. It's like,
I went at the height. I only went one day with my wife and some friends, and I went at the height of it, the week before it got shut down by the cops. And I mean, there were lots of cops there when I was there too, but it was very peaceful. And the thing I noticed the most shocking part of it wasn't how friendly everyone and the good vibes and all that, the partying, the dancing and singing and all the friendliness. It wasn't that, because I knew that was there because I saw it in the alternative media. But what shocked me the most was the ease of access, the fluidity of traffic in the city, and it's just like it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. If you live down there in that couple of blocks region, it would be annoying trying to get to sleep at night. That I agree with. That I admit. That's annoying. But if I lived down there, I'd be out there on the streets supporting them, and I would, if I really, really wanted to sleep and I couldn't sleep in my downtown luxury apartment, I'd go to my chalet or one of my country houses or whatever, right? It's a first world problem. It's not the
yeah.
kind of problem that's going to get sympathy from me. And the people that were complaining that they're shutting down our city and they're constipating the city, it's nonsense. It's not true. It's not true. So there's a lot of propaganda against anyone who would dare to speak out against the mainstream media narrative, and the mainstream media narrative is highly influenced, not to say bought and paid for, by the liberal government. And it doesn't matter if it's liberal, conservative, whatever. They're all in the same game of control and politics. It's all the same nonsense, like you said earlier.
But it's just that they don't like, let's be realistic. This, like, the state of media is just that there's no more money in media. So, like, it's like, you're not, like, currently the medias are like all
They're
online.
struggling. They're struggling.
Exactly. So
The
for
the
them, like,
legacy.
if they can carry a news for like 10 days, like, let's do it. It's
That's a win. That's a win.
uh,
It is sad and embarrassing. Do you I'm just curious, do you have any alternative news sources that you tune into on a regular basis or no?
yes, absolutely. So I actually I like very much. So I'm personally really so I said I never believed I would turn right. So like for instance, I think I know I will vote for the Quebecan Conservative Party next election. At the same time, my sources are all Marxist. Or I really like. Actually, there's a podcast which is called The Analysis. But yeah, I mean, do I have? So there's nothing regional, or almost nothing regional, or
Do
no,
you know Viva Frey?
no.
He's a lawyer in Montreal that talks about everything that's related to COVID and the tyranny
Oh,
of
really?
governments and stuff like that. And I don't think he's a practicing lawyer right now because he's having such success with his alternative media and his streaming and all that. And he streamed on the ground in Ottawa. And I'm always a bit skeptical of him. He's growing on me slowly. I don't completely trust any human, you know. But he's slowly growing on me a little bit, and I like that we have a Montreal guy that's involved. There's also from Rebel News Media, which is sort of a right wing news thing,
Yeah.
a little bit brash, but there's Alexa Lavoie. She's a Quebecoise.
Okay.
You could look into her. Her English is like my French. It's just like the accent is horrible, but it's funny. It's charming. It's very charming, and she's a cute lady. And she was assaulted by a police officer in Ottawa, and she's suing. She's suing.
Okay.
So there are no, there are Quebecers. There are probably many more that I'm not aware of.
Yeah,
But
but I
and
just
yeah, go ahead.
no, I want to say me like the people I follow, like for instance, my great so there's so for international news, the people I trust is a guy called Chris Hedges,
Okay.
who's Chris Hedges. He's actually anarcho Christian. Uh,
Ah,
so he's a Pulitzer Prize actually. So very very Chris Hedges. And there's two Vijay Prashad who but these are like Vijay Prashad. He's um yeah, so very very Marxist. And
libertarian. Are they on the libertarian spectrum?
libertarian. No, they're not libertarian. They're no, they're anarchists. So absolutely not libertarian. So and yeah. So and actually, these people and I feel a lot of people that I follow, like in Quebec, there's for instance, what is his name, Alain Deneau, who's known to write cryptic books, but actually, he really makes sense of many things. He's way better in interviewing in books because his books are just unreadable. Um, and everyone went quiet. I feel there's a lot. Again, I'm very. I turn right wings because of the absence of left wing, because of the absence of people rising. That makes no sense. At one point, there's one guy in Quebec that wrote a book about COVID. A guy from Université de Montréal who's a professor in I think in the engineering department. I think a specialist in oil, and he wrote a book about like how that just made no sense. Like nothing makes sense. He just said like, look, you cannot. And he wrote the book after like the first year of COVID, so he totally discovered his second year. Like it's. And he said, look, you cannot ask people to stay indoor. A family of four in a tiny apartment in Montreal. Like you cannot shut parks in Montreal because parks are actually places like it was just and very basic. And actually, he got totally muted by the media's like entirely. Actually, I have his book somewhere here.
ah,
It's true. Yeah. So. Yeah, so no, I'm very, very so yeah. So many people went muted. I think for multiple reasons, like on international. Let's be honest, like internationally, we've been the most extreme of all. So
yeah.
perhaps Australia has been more, but we're in Quebec, we're like 400 days of curfew.
I don't know.
something like that. It turned out. I think I read that in the paper actually when I went to Metro, which is amazing. So, but I'm always in Metro. But I think we had 400 days of curfew. Well, not curfew of lockdown.
Okay.
400 days of
Okay.
lockdowns, which you know unheard of anywhere else.
Mm,
Unheard of.
mm.
Um,
Uh,
so
have you heard of Douglas Farrow? Farrow. He's in the School of Religious Studies in McGill University. He writes some really scathing indictments of the response of the Catholic bishops, because I'm Catholic. So I'm very disappointed with the response of the Catholic bishops worldwide, from the top down, from Pope Francis down, because he's been pushing the jab. I know you're okay with the jab. You think it's safe, if not terribly effective, but
but
I
I'm not saying that we should like. I think we should like it's out of this world that we try to force something to people.
yeah,
Like I mean, there's ways to convince people, and you will convincing
free
will
hot dog
yeah yeah no it can like I don't care but the thing of
mandates.
it's
Take away. You can feed your family, or you can refuse the jab. It's your choice. It's not a choice at that point.
yes same thing for passport, like can you imagine going in the gay village, open a bar, say seronegative only, like before going to the bar you need to
Never,
show your like it would be
never,
like
never.
it would be like saying that is
Scandal.
awful is
Yeah.
the same is the same and
Yeah.
actually yeah so and when I read in the paper I think it was not an open letter, like really someone like in the I don't know which paper. Anyway, at this point, it's gossip, but it doesn't matter. I read in paper someone saying that the in the gay village that it was they should shut the saunas because of COVID. And you're like, look, like you really like the problem. Like, I mean, so I'm very gay friendly, but it's just like okay, so here, like it's not COVID is not that like give condoms, COVID is fine, condoms. So yeah, no, it's we heard all the most like the weirdest thing, actually, the weirdest things.
It's strange. One of the things that I often talk about in the context of COVID on this podcast is a very simple but powerful point, which is that children are starving to death every 10 seconds. And there are children worldwide that are deprived of drinkable water.
Yeah.
And there are people that don't have the basics: shelter, food, water. These are the basics, right? And security of person, like this is supposed to be protected in the Constitution of Canada, the security of person. Some people don't have that. A lot of people don't have that worldwide. So I find it embarrassing as a white Western member of a wealthy first world country. I find it very embarrassing, the whole COVID thing, because of the emphasis that we're giving to this, whatever it is, if you want to say it's the flu or a virus or a biological weapon that leaked out or was leaked on purpose or whatever you want to say about it, doesn't really matter. The point is that we get our panties all in a knot when the white guy, the rich white guy, his grandmother might die at age 85 from this, whatever this is, right? But meanwhile, it's just like people are dropping dead, innocent children dropping dead from not having the basics. Are you not embarrassed about this? Are the white privileged Western people not embarrassed about the big stink they're making a mountain out of a molehill? We need to wake up and get our priorities straight. If we have the capability to get everyone on board with a project that matters, that has to do with health and safety, for God's sake, let's do it. Let's not make a mockery of it. And that's what COVID is for me. It's a complete insult to 90% of the planet, or whatever it is, 85%.
But this is again, I think that we live in the most but this is where probably your so yeah, so we live in the perhaps the most affected by
Well,
the
first of all, do you agree? Do you agree with my outrage?
as long as yes, but just the caveat that yeah, so absolutely, absolutely, like it won't be the first source of death of anything this year or last year, or like especially in poor countries, which I've actually like weirdly been unaffected, right? Weirdly been unaffected. Africa has not been, Delhi is not an empty town currently. Like there's still people in Delhi, but actually, some people at the beginning were extremely scared of that, right? At the beginning, some people said, "Okay, so like, will we see like 1 billion people dying?" Look, I don't know if we would have any. If at that time was reasonable to think of how the situation changed, but yeah, the only thing is, if this is true that it care, nonetheless we need to continue to help, like we need to help more like poor countries to develop their infrastructure for today's, like for the real problem, and this is something which currently we don't do much. Yeah, we don't do much. We're not good at it. We use yeah.
I think it's I hate to be pessimistic. Okay, I hate to be pessimistic, but I think we live in a world where people enjoy a certain lifestyle, let's say, they enjoy that certain lifestyle that they're accustomed to. They enjoy it at the expense of other people. I think we live in a dark, dark world, and people enjoy a certain lifestyle, and they're okay with it on some level being at the expense of people whose skin might be a bit darker or whose eyes might be a bit slantier. What do you think?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
it's
And
tragic.
the the scariest thing is that, especially with all these, government change and so on, a lot of people, and I think here, like the bright side said, like, this is dangerous to turn to dictatorship, which I think we're far from. Are we far from? Well, it's Reagan that said you're never further away than, I think he said, 2 generation or 3 generation from dictatorship. I think 2 generation is what he said. But the thing which is scary is that, the majority of the people here would be happy to live in dictatorship.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and for this you have one country to name, Singapore. Like the majority of people would be the majority of people. So some people would be very happy to live in Singapore, which is dictatorship. You cannot say what you want. You and but people would be okay with it. Actually, people, what they want is their local well-being, and it's normal, right? It's normal, but really local well-being. This is why big issues like global warming, like that are not touched, because like until that you're very effective and that you can clearly see cause effect, you won't do anything.
Mm.
So
Yeah. So you touched several times in our little chat here on the how you're disgusted with the way the left has gone crazy. If I'm paraphrasing, obviously very
yeah,
heavily
yeah,
here, but the idea, I mean, it's I've met so many people in Montreal, and Montreal is a colorful city that's up until now it's been very open for immigration, and it's changing a bit. Okay, it is changing, but it's been very open with class. Like you can have mixtures of rich and poor, and they seem to get along for the most part. Okay, and blue collar people, white collar people, there's just a sort of an open, friendly vibe in Montreal. That's what attracted me to it, and it is changing. Unfortunately, it's moving away from that. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because my entourage in Montreal is very left, and they were always comfortable being on the left until COVID. And now people are realizing that something's going wrong. There's too much control, there's too much manipulation, there are too many lies, there's too much fake news and propaganda. And I think you would agree with that. But I've seen it firsthand with my wife and with other close friends. Okay. So I just wanted to put in my own words, sort of what you're feeling, and say that I can relate totally to it. And I wanted to get your feedback on Russia Ukraine, because there's a bandwagon where Ukraine good, Russia bad, and I just intuitively uh, want to go in the opposite direction and say no. I will not conform. I will not comply with this narrative, just like I would not comply with the mainstream narrative for 911 or anything else that the mainstream media forces so heavy-handedly.
Russia, Ukraine. Okay, so I'll the company that I just resigned yesterday. So my last day was yesterday. It's a company where the majority of the people are either Russian or Ukrainian.
Cool.
So so actually I'm trying to learn Russian. So there's some Russian books behind it too.
Ah,
So
Aspidania.
So yeah, so wow, so that's a very
Have you been
complex. So
absorbing? Have you been absorbing opinions, diverse opinions at work, or is it hush hush?
no, everyone agrees that Putin is crazy.
Okay.
Like invading. No one was expecting that Russia would invade. Russia would launch a full blown invasion on Ukraine. Um, so my personally, like, there's multiple things. So like, there's obviously a real like, um, yeah. So wow, there's so many things. Um, wow.
But your basic stance is you're pretty cool with being on the bandwagon that's like almost monolithic in its uniformity and consensus with the whole Ukraine versus Russia
Um,
story.
so the
Nothing
thing is,
fishy. You don't see anything fishy in the
do I
narrative.
but I don't know what is the narrative actually. Like I feel totally removed from the. So I'm not. I mean, I read like my the paper I read the most is probably the Guardian.
Yeah.
But after that, these are all the different sources. So look, me my the thing that my personal thing is my personal opinion is or not opinion, like how I see the events. It's not opinions, how I see the events. Okay, so you had like after Soviet Union, Ukraine, like Ukraine goes away, and so yeah, and Russia is there. Ukraine gives away its nuke. Very important to say. Ukraine plays fair, sign a treaty, like you won't arrest me and so on. And Ukraine becomes like, let's be honest, like it's a failed state. If you compare Ukraine to Czechoslovakia, like or what was Czechoslovakia and so on, Ukraine was a really poor nation. After that, like Putin came to power and placed by the. Yeah, we can't say like we can't say. I mean, again, I have books behind me that I could say that. So Putin was placed there by the West, right? Putin, actually, at the time, the only other option, and still today, like if Putin goes away, it's going to be the Communist Party that goes there. So it's no joke. Like the only alternative in Russia for Putin is the Communist Party. So it's like saying that it's as weird as saying like if in Quebec like it's going to be the Parti Québécois that would come back. Yeah. Yeah, like yeah, even if they're really weak right now, like yeah, they're everywhere. There's like yeah, so yeah, so basically this is what happened. Ukraine, like look, Crimea, this is not okay. No one agrees with me. Crimea is Russian. That's what I believe. So I mean, it has been given to Ukraine by Stalin in 19. I don't recall what, as a gift to Ukraine. But actually, in Crimea, there's the biggest naval military base for Russia. Like the fact that like if Ukraine, like basically that the fact that the Sevastopol base is there since like like before actually at the Crimean War. So 18 something. So like this makes that display like this geographical place makes it totally impossible to like to become like just a little bit unstable on Russian perspective, right? It needs
Yeah.
to be like really Russian friendly. Like we
Yeah.
talk about like like there's top like you don't want it, that needs to be Russian control. So this would happen, and actually I'm pretty sure that until right now I'm less sure, but until the beginning of the war, any referendum would have given uh like would have 80% and above all the time that this territory is Russian.
Okay.
80% above. Um, then there's a region of Donbass and anyway, the Lugansk, the two regions. They were like obviously Russian speaking, close to Russia, like they're separate. I suppose Russia just hated that. Then obviously Ukraine tried to join NATO or like once or threat to join NATO, which and this is very personally I believe in um so actually I learned recently that there's at least two system for international politics. There's the liberals, which believes that countries are that the thing that creates countries is actually the people, and if like you need people to have good values, and people with good values like. And there's the other ones which are the the realistic, that says that basically countries are made by nothing else than countries. We don't care about the people. We don't care. And these countries lives in an anarchist system, and they will fight for their survival. So basically, what that means is that, for instance, like Russia cannot allow Ukraine to become part of NATO. That would be way too dangerous for Russia. And personally, like I'm perhaps alone here. I don't care about Ukraine. Like, I mean, I don't care. I don't like NATO means if you attack NATO, it's a full blown nuclear war. I don't want to go to nuclear war of of Ukraine. Just because Ukraine get invaded by a country each 50 years, right? Probably now this is actually low. Same thing for Poland, same thing for Lithuania, same thing for Latvia, same thing for Estonia. I am sorry, like I'm not ready to die for them. Like it's just like NATO is a really serious thing. Like currently, if there's one bomb that explodes in Poland, like 10 kilometers, like change, we are at a full-blown nuclear war. Like we die, So it's not fun. It's not. So yeah, so here so Russia thinks the same, right? Russia says, okay, so you cannot be in NATO, and so you need a dead zone. And here Ukraine, I know it sucks, but Ukraine is actually forced to be a neutral country, at best a neutral country, and sense that same thing as Canada. Canada, we could not decide to have Chinese military bases. Like we could not. Like United
No.
States would invade us. It would take
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just like we are a puppet
That's
state.
what Putin said. That's what Putin made that point very
Absolutely.
clearly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but nonetheless, after that, he made that very clearly. And but then when he started the invasion, I don't think he needed an invasion in the sense that I think the like he could just put enough economical pressure and everything to reduce the state. The war totally goes wrong. But here, the only thing that I can say is that probably Putin was really scared by Ukraine, really scared enough to risk a full blown war, and scared enough to like now it doesn't go well at all for him. Like people in Russia are struggling, people in Russia are leaving. It's extremely hard. So I think it was a hard, like the worst move ever. It was stupid. It cost lives, is terrible. I think really badly placed. Very similar to Iraq for United States. Iraq was really stupid. The Second World, it just like the war in Iraq was just actually helping Iran and Afghanistan. It's the only thing, it was just made for that. Iran, Afghanistan. Anyway, at least Iran. Like the arch enemy of Iraq of Iran is Iraq. Like if you remove the Iraqi government and actually place a Iranian, like now Iraq's almost a Iranian puppet state actually. Very similar. So it's a very dumb war. I hate all wars, this one we could have like removed it. I think like Putin should not have invaded. It was not necessary. Obviously, the West did everything to attract Putin to invade it, because
What's your What's your prediction? I'm going out of my way not to follow the news on this particular item, the Russia Ukraine thing. You can't help but hear bits and pieces, and I'm just trying not to. But I do want to get your opinion on it, because when I talk one on one with an individual, I don't mind hearing a human being's opinion. Right?
yeah.
That's more valuable to me than headlines or whatever. So what's your prediction in terms of duration? And you said that you don't think that Putin's going to win.
Un-
So not that there are any winners anyway, but it's not going to go well for Putin. But are you talking? And leaving aside your hopes and your best wishes, but you think it's a matter of days, weeks, months, or years, or
wow.
decades, or centuries, millennia?
uh, Look, no one believed that Russia would invade. No one believed that Ukraine could resist. No one believed. I can just put myself in Putin's shoes. If today I'm Putin, I remove everything from Ukraine and I tell everyone that it's a success. Ukraine is actually like Ukraine now is destroyed for the next 25 years, especially because like a thing which like let's be honest, like it never happened that refugees have been so warmly welcomed everywhere, and actually Ukraine has lost a lot of its population and a lot of its skilled population. So this war will cost a lot of money to, like, a lot of human, like, Ukraine is. Um, so actually, I would to be Putin again. I'm not in his shoes and said I don't know how he perceived the threat, but me, like, I would, let's say that today I just, like, I think the most brilliant thing they can go is like, okay, we call that a date. We wrap everything up. We remove. We call that a victory. We put posters with, like, yeah, we destroyed this thing that was just what happened. Blah blah blah, and we pretend nothing happened. Like, it's um, the danger for Russia is actually to become again a Chinese puppet state, because no one else will want to trade with Russia and China wants to have all the resources. Like, they're like, oil, oh damn, that we're open for that. We're really really open for that. But at the same time, like, dealing with Chinese is not fun. um and yeah, like, the Russian in the street prefers Germans to Chinese. It's obvious, or French or Americans, or um yeah, so I would just call that. But again, this is me, so I hope it stays. Look, I have friends on both sides of the borders. uh, um, um, it's yeah, it's terrible what happens. Just like, it's terrible.
Do
It's
you think that there's a direct connection? I'm going to have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, I've got an appointment. I got to go to church. But do you think there's a connection, an effect, I should say, that the war, if you want to call it that, the war is having on the whole management of the COVID situation and this alleged sixth wave that's unrolling now with the BA2 or whatever it's called? Do you think there's any effect, a noticeable effect that military activity is going to have on our response to the governments of the world,
oh,
their response to COVID?
again, I believe, I believe that there's kind of a strange relationship between medias and politicians.
Yeah.
And now the medias are more centered on Ukraine. So I think that if COVID-22 arrives now, I don't want to say no one will notice it, but because this is bad. Um,
There'll be less emphasis, you think?
yeah, yeah.
And your general impression, because it seems to me that you're the people you work with and that you in your circle, they seem to be a lot more um, less radical. Let's put it that way. The people that I'm choosing to surround myself with, because I've been sort of because of my rebellious spirit, I've been sort of pushed to the margins, like even more than normal. So the people that I'm frequenting are more radical and more rebellious than the people that you're hanging out with. Okay. So, what was my point with this? The point with this was, oh yeah, the people that you're hanging out with, you get the impression that they're just fed up and,
No, no,
it's
their life are destroyed. Like, literally, like,
okay.
it's not like
They're tired of the restrictions and of the mandates and
oh,
of
okay, okay,
all.
okay. You mean about COVID? Okay, okay. I thought you talked about the about Russia,
No,
because,
I'm
like,
back to I'm back to COVID now.
COVID.
The regular working people who got the jab and are happy to comply in 2020, 2021, in 2022, are they as willing to comply, or are they going to give some pushback like, I've had enough, I don't want the third, fourth, fifth jab and all these sorts of things? Are they going to give some pushback?
So what's so people changed the way that they lived. This is important to understand. Like, there are things like, personally, I really like theater. I would like to go to see a play tonight.
Theater, yeah.
And like, theaters will actually, like, it is dying right now because people have stopped to go to play. And it's not like people that go to theater, there's not that many, like, and now it's been like, it's a pain to go, it's a pain. So people change a little bit. Like, people last summer, actually, like, I didn't go to any bar last summer because I was always drinking in parks, because, like, yeah, it's just less painful, like, it's just so here the question is, what do you mean by like, it's just people change, people, like, but I personally, I know kind of, I, I would argue, like, I know no one that really follow, especially in Quebec, the rules. Like, I mean, no one. so people that say, yeah, I follow the rule, and then they'll always say, yeah, but what did you do last Sunday? Oh yeah, I invited my friends, but and then they find excuses. But you're like, yeah, but
mm,
it's
mm.
uh, like that's not following the rules. Or but again, like I'm actually openly advocating to not follow the rules. So same, I don't know, like in the metro, like now people wear their masks lower and lower and
Yeah,
lower,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I'm yeah, it's but some people, like
You
some
don't do
people,
that? You don't do that?
yeah, no, I'm a bad person. Yes, I'm a bad person. I don't.
You cheat?
Look, I don't put my nose in my mask. I just like look. I wear I wear glasses. I don't
And you
like
have a facial
having
hair
fun.
too.
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. I have
That
facial hair. Yeah.
that defeats the mask right away.
Uh,
No, but
I
you
like
do you
for
do cheat.
surgery
You do
for
cheat a
surgery
bit.
perhaps. No,
Oh, you don't cheat. You put it right on.
no. So I put it there actually
That's
underneath.
cheating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a bad person. I told you, I'm a
I'm
bad
going to
person.
report you. I'm going to report you to the government.
I'm a bad person. Look, but I'm lucky enough. Like my girlfriend works in a hospital. She needs to wear like
Yeah,
she needs
full on.
she needs to change it twice a day, and
Yeah.
uh, um, so it's very
But do you change your mask every 20 minutes like you're supposed to? Because those blue ones you're supposed to change them every 20 minutes because they get
it's
humid.
4 hours, but 4 hours actually. But no, my girlfriend is 4 hours. That at the
Yeah,
hospital they change it each 4 hours.
4
Absolutely,
hours. Okay.
they do.
I don't know
But me,
anyone.
no,
I don't know
me,
anyone
I
that does
never
it.
look. I just take use masks, and that's it. I don't.
Pick them up off the sidewalk. Yeah, it's just clean enough for me. Put it on.
I've already done that actually.
Oh my god. So
But
I
look, you're far. You need to go somewhere. You don't have a mask. You're like, okay, why not?
Has you
It's
have your shopping habits changed in terms of groceries and buying more stuff from Amazon?
absolutely. I used to hate Amazon.
Yeah. Now you love them.
Uh, um, so do I love them? Um, Perhaps not, but it's much like I mean it's
It's
I
more
don't have
convenient.
now I don't like so I my girlfriend like she's and all that, but yeah, now I'm like, okay, let's buy it on Amazon. Why going to shop? Like it's just look, it's annoying. It's annoying. It's The worst is the gym. The worst is like me cutting the gym for like for I don't know how many months, shutting down the gym. That made no sense. No sense. Um, yeah. So
It's annoying. The whole thing's annoying. Um, I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you one last question about the mask, the shopping. Oh yeah, do you get a lot of what do you call them? Porch thieves, like people that steal your Amazon packages. Have you had that?
so it happens one. It happened once.
Yeah.
But no, actually, a bunch for real. Montreal is a great city for that. Like it happens rarely. It's so it's
You're lucky. You're lucky. We've had a lot stolen here, and I've had so many bicycles stolen. I'm on in the Plateau East. You know,
yeah.
Fulham Street in Marianne near
Okay, right.
Baldwin
Yes.
Park. Uh, I live way out, almost as far as Anjou. That's where you live, Anjou.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kineuf and Fleury, that kind of area. That's where I work.
Okay. Right. Right.
So it's
Yes.
like Montreal North, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
Montreal
Yeah.
North,
Same chat. Yeah. Yeah.
Montreal Nord. Anjou
Yeah.
is just next door, right?
Uh, wow. I think before that, there's anyway. So yeah.
It's not
But you
too
have it
far.
right. Exactly. It's not too far. Correct.
So I have to run. I'm heading off to church, but I really enjoyed meeting you properly for the first time in 9 years. We only saw each other face to face for maybe an hour
50.
9 years ago or something like that. So very nice to meet you properly and fun chatting with you and hearing a little bit about your background and your work situation. And good luck with what's your new job again?
Wow. So wow. What's my new job? So I'm starting only in July. So I'll be a data more. So I'm a programmer. So I program stuff. Turn out that I used to work for a company called Behavivox that like make your software for banks. Trying to do machine learning, not trying actually doing machine learning on banking communication to find the bad people inside the banks. Now I'll be more in consultancy for ML, machine learning, which is actually quite fun. It's more data engineering. I'm not like I'm personally, I don't do machine learning, so it's data engineering. Basically, being able to extract the data before being able to analyze the data. First, you need to get your hands on the data, which usually is not trivial. And then, if you want to add a process to this data, you need to create a program to put this process and give back the data to the user. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Interface for big data, like it's just to grab a hold of it.
we'll see. Yes, and it's the first time I'll do consultancy, which is scares me a lot, in the
Yeah.
sense that it's like I like to build things that last for a long time because it's where you see your good decision. Like you go,
Mm.
oh, I did that a year ago and that was bad,
Ah,
or when it
ah,
was better, I did that a year ago and this actually that was the good choice. Um,
nice.
but like consultancy is more like, yeah, you have a project for like a year, so well, it won't be possible to just look back at things. But
Ah.
nonetheless, I'm actually quite. It's going to be a nice challenge. It's going to be a
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
challenge.
yeah. So you're gonna take a month or two off between now and
Yeah,
then.
exactly. Yes.
Very cool. When you said you went to Colombia, I thought your new job was cocaine dealer.
Yeah. No, no, I'm not.
That fell through, right? So you got to fall back on real work. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. Yeah, real work.
Yeah. You got to work
Yeah.
on your Spanish. So next time you go to Colombia, you can get those deals. I'm just joking. Anyone who's
Yeah.
listening, these are just jokes, bad jokes, bad jokes. He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
Yeah, yeah.
His
Don't do
only
drugs.
his only crime is this. Very nice talking to you. Very nice meeting you, and hopefully we'll talk again soon. Nice to see you on Telegram too.
Okay, good.
Take care
Bye.
of yourself.